Alright YouTube, so we are back, of course, to talk about some Final Fantasy VII Remake. So earlier today was the First Soldier stream that showed off some new things for the game, but we also ended up getting a new trailer for Intergrade that has a lot of new shit in it, and I figured we'd do the remake stuff today, and maybe tomorrow I'll recap like the First Soldier things, because there is some stuff I want to discuss. In terms of what was talked about and shown today, we got quite a bit, my dudes. We have, like, Rama was shown in the trailer. Obviously, by now, most of you have probably seen it. The Fort Condor minigame. We had more kind of commenting on Part 2 and kind of briefly touching on some stuff, maybe. Possible open world type thing. This trailer also gave us confirmation that Intergrade itself will also have an exclusivity for the PS5, at least 6 months, possibly longer. We also have people thinking that they see Vincent in this goddamn trailer, and I think it's ridiculous, but we'll talk about it. Let's hop into it. So the trailer opens up with Yuffie and Sonon kicking the shit out of the deep ground guys, and Yuffie actually mentions Sector 7 plate being destroyed, which a lot of people were speculating would be a big part of this DLC, and this is pretty much confirmation of that.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but
just hit me with it.
I'm gonna drop plate number 7.
From there, we get a scene of Yuffie talking about some sort of bean that she brought from Wutai. I don't know what the significance of this is. I don't even know what's going on. What is the point? Is this something that I'm not aware of from other lore or something? And then it actually happens, my dudes. My guy Polk asks Yuffie if she wants to play Fort Condor.
You look about ready to die of boredom. Want to play Fort Condor?
Fort Condor?
And I'll be completely honest with you, my dudes, this looks fantastic. It looks almost exactly like Clash Royale if you've ever played that on your phone. You have the 3 towers on both sides, the main tower, the 2 side towers, and I'm assuming you take the towers to win. You even have the ATB gauge at the top, which is very similar to like the Elixir bar on Clash Royale, where like every card costs so much Elixir to activate. Same thing here, so much ATB to like summon a troop or use a spell. All the way down to the fact that there's like 2 bridges to walk across in the middle, and even down to there being 8 options for like your deck, so to speak, which is what it is in Clash Royale. You have 8 cards per deck. There's 8 things on the left, 8 things on the right, and it even tells you which is coming up next. They almost directly copy Clash Royale. I'm not complaining because that's a game I play all the damn time. And this is exactly what they needed to do, man. A lot of people didn't like the Fort Condor minigame from the original FF7. If they're going to still put something like that into Remake, they had to change it and make it a little more enjoyable, and this looks pretty damn fun. We then get a scene between Scarlet and Sonon and Yuffie, and you find out that in the past at some point, Scarlet had killed somebody that was important to Sonon. Her name is Melfi, and from what I can tell, this is a new character because I don't see anything FF7 and Melfi related.
It was Scarlet, Director of Advanced Weaponry. It was one of her machines that killed Melfi!
We then get a fantastic shot of Scarlet's cleavage. Figured I'd put a little emphasis on that. Anyways, we then see Scarlet step into a mech suit that I first thought was Proud Cloud from the original FF7 because of the fact that it's red. They could have chose 1,000 other colors. But I don't believe it is because we do see that it has like swords, whereas Proud Cloud in the original FF7 had like 4 hands or arms, whatever you want to call it, and also a gigantic cannon on its back. And it doesn't seem like it's nearly big enough to be Proud Cloud. But it could very well be Proud Claude. Maybe they just went with a different design for Remake because of all the different fighting style, right? They gotta have all kinds of different phases and animations and all that shit. Also during the fight, we see that Yuffie has an ability called Ninja Cannonball, which to the best of my knowledge is something new. I don't recognize the name. We've heard about some of her like ninjutsu, like elemental abilities and stuff, but I don't recognize that. Something else that stuck out to me from the fighting within this trailer is that you see that Sonon actually has a limit gauge too that's filling up. I guess that never registered before, or I never thought about that, but apparently he's gonna have his own limit break. Or at least a team limit break with Yuffie or something. We then, of course, get to see my boy Rama. It's not the summon that people were expecting to be in this DLC. A lot of people were thinking Phoenix for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. And then this shit happens. We have another Dirge of Cerberus character confirmed when it comes to Intergrade and Intermission, and it's Nero, Vice's brother. So my thoughts here, first thing I want to say is a lot of people seem to think that Vice is not going to be important to the Remake story just because he's a battle simulation fight in this DLC or part of Intergrade or whatever it is. The fact that we're fighting his goddamn brother, he's going to be important at some point. It may not be in this DLC, but at some point within the Remake story, we're going to run into Vice. He's going to be a part of the story somehow, some way. I don't know how. Who knows what the hell's going on? Nobody would have predicted we're fighting goddamn Nero in this DLC, but here we are. And then at the end of the trailer, we see Yuffie overlooking what's probably the Sector 7 plate falling, and she has blood on her face, so there's where that fucking ESRB rating for blood for this DLC comes from. And this also happens to be the scene within the trailer where people somehow are seeing Vincent Valentine. So in the reflection of Yuffie's goddamn eyeball during this scene, people are seeing what they think is Vincent Valentine. There he is, guys. That's Vincent Valentine right there. Do you see it? Because I fucking don't. Look, I'm not saying they couldn't show or tease Vincent or something with this DLC. It's entirely possible. We're getting a lot of deep ground stuff. Dirge of Cerberus, obviously that pertains to Vincent. But unless they're breaking lore or canon, he's locked away at, the Shinra Mansion. Unless it's like a vision, what some people have speculated. To be honest, what bothered me the most about this is that we're clearly looking at an important moment for the character of Yuffie, right? She's covered in blood, she's crying, potentially the blood's from Sonon or somebody else that she knows. She witnessed how many people fucking died just now. And we're just like pausing and looking at the reflection of her eye, looking for the smallest detail that could be Vincent Valentine. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know.
This is just wrong.
And then, of course, at the end of the trailer, to nobody's surprise, we find out that Intergrade is a PlayStation 5 console exclusive, but in the fine print says, available on PS5 at least 6 months earlier than any other format. I did find it kind of weird, though, that it says, 6 months or earlier. They don't know exactly how long the exclusivity is going to be. Found that kind of strange. And now on to some of the more surprising bits we got from this live stream, which is Nomura talking about Part 2 and kind of implying an open world, and also that Part 2 is going to be a direct sequel, direct follow-up to this DLC. So his quote is saying, I've seen a lot of comments during the live stream asking about the Remake sequel. I was on a call with Kitase early this morning before 9 a.m. Obviously, we knew fans would ask about the sequel during the stream, so he asked me to confirm how far I'd answer. He asked me about so many things, I was surprised myself, and I told him I wouldn't reveal that much. The game's development has progressed quite a lot, and well, we will properly announce the sequel when the time is right. And I can say Cloud will be running in the wilderness. The sequel's atmosphere will be different from the first game. The game's development is going very smoothly, so please wait for more information. Moreover, the sequel game will take place right after Intergrade, so please look forward to Intergrade as well. So the obvious standout quote here is him talking about Cloud running around in the wilderness. This isn't confirmation, but it definitely seems to be leaning towards there being some sort of exploration when it comes to Part 2, potentially an overworld or an open world, which is exactly what the hell all of us want. Don't get me wrong, I love Remake Part 1, and I've come to kind of accept the gameplay of the game. We're confined to Midgar anyways, it's an isolated story, so it kind of makes sense that the gameplay is somewhat linear. But I don't know how you do the rest of the Remake story or the rest of the FF7 story without some level of freedom. They almost have to do that, and it seems that that might be the case. It doesn't need to be this massive world-sized world just yet, not until we at least get the airship or, the submarine or the tiny bronco or something like that. When we actually get some level of actual freedom and exploration, that's when you got to kind of focus on open world. But I'm just hoping we get, decent-sized areas to explore. What I'm hoping for and kind of what I'm picturing in my mind is that I'm hoping, the outside of Midgar all the way up to the Mithril Mine is one, decent-sized map. And then we go through the Mithril Mine, and then outside of the Mithril Mine to Junon is one decent-sized map, and then so on and so forth, and repeat for however long the story of Part 2 is. It's also good to hear that Part 2's development has progressed quite a lot. Now, what that means exactly, who knows? Is it halfway done? Is it a third of the way done? Is it still 5 years away? I don't know. It is what it is. That is pretty much the video. That is my breakdown of the final trailer we got for Intergrade. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on stuff like Nero, for example. I know of the character, I know about the character, but I'm not the Dirge Cerberus lore guy. I don't know enough about him to even be able to explain who he is to you guys, other than being Vice's brother. I have also seen people mention, and it's got to be thrown in here towards the end of the video, Genesis. The fact that they're pulling so much from Dirge Cerberus and Deep Ground and all that shit, maybe it's a matter of time until we actually fucking see Genesis again. And I know people aren't fans of him, and I know people aren't really fans of Dirge Cerberus. It's kind of crazy how much they're pulling from that game, and with Deep Ground and all this other stuff. Obviously it's going to have its fans, but most of the community kind of talks negatively about Dirge Cerberus. It wasn't that well received of a game. I gotta be honest, man, I was pretty surprised that we even got a new trailer for Intergrade. They obviously said they were going to talk about and discuss Intergrade towards the end of the live stream, but I wasn't expecting a new trailer. So this was a decent surprise today. Other than it is, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys aren't able to see more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter at dashingdavidYT. I'm a Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description. Into the outro. Well, later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain or leave it like Cobain.